Well, if you tuned in to the 2024 Giro d'Italia, you were treated with a quintessential Italian stage. Racing through the Tuscan countryside, over gravel roads, and between cypress trees, and coming here to Rapolano Terme for the stage finish. And none other than Spaniard from Team Movistar, Pelayo Sanchez, getting the win ahead of former double world champion Julian Alaphilippe and Australian champion Luke Plapp. It was a heck of a stage, raced over 3 different gravel sectors, 180 kilometers, running completely in Toscana, in Tuscany, the land of art, history, and cuisine, and yes, of course, fashion. Home of Prada, home of Gucci, but let's not get into that right now. We need to talk about cycling. And the cycle race over the 180 kilometers, it was around about 90 when we saw this power move form. I think 6, 7 riders, including the 3 that stayed away for the stage win. Others include Andrea Vendrame. In the group also sprinter Caden Groves, Matteo Trentin, and of course always there, Filippo Fioriano from the Bardiani team. They had sectors out there. The 2 of the 3 sectors came around 45 kilometers to go, and the final one coming at 15 kilometers to go. Before I get into all the racing action, I want to backtrack to yesterday's stage 5 that finished in Lucca. Unfortunately, it was bad news for our Canadian riders in the team, Michael Woods and Riley Pickrell. Both of those riders crashed in separate crashes yesterday, along with their teammate Reisberg, the Israeli rider. All 3 of those riders from Team Israel Premier Tech abandoned the race. They lost 3 of their 8 riders in the 2024 Giro d'Italia. Woods suffered a concussion, and the team decided it's better that he doesn't race on. They decided that last night. Then this morning, Riley said, hey, I don't feel well. Head was kind of hurting. They made the decision to not race him today, even though he was gung-ho as a young rider, first-year professional, racing his first Grand Tour to continue on in this race. Tough call for the team, tough call for Mike Woods. Wanted to aim for Saturday's stage to Prato di Tivo. Let's get on to the racing today over the gravel. Beautiful day out there. You see the Tuscan hillsides behind me. Well, that's where they were racing. You see the roads similar to what you'd find in Strade Bianche, and those 3 riders that were stayed away clear for the win, they eventually distanced the other riders in the group, Matteo Trentin, Floriano, and Vendrame, to go for their own. On that gravel sector, the first 2 of 3, they had around about 2 minutes. Back behind, UAE was doing some work, but Team Ineos was really holding the pace today, with their man Geraint Thomas sitting second in the overall behind race leader Tadej Pogacar, who was wearing pink jersey and pink shorts today. He's leading the race. Thomas is second overall, but Ineos decides to take up the charge, as they've been doing on other days. I spoke with Geraint Thomas at the finish, and I said some of us watching on the TV at home, streaming on the internet, and also posting social posts will question, why is Ineos doing this? Well, he simply explained it's safe for them to keep their riders up at the front, and they could control the pace, and they're in good position over the gravel sectors. And we saw in the first 2 of 3 gravel sectors, there was a crash behind. It looked like one rider had a mechanical. It slowed everything up, and a couple riders fell over. Not any major injuries. I think I saw Will Barta, the American from Team Movistar, falling over. Let's hope everybody's okay. It looked like a low-speed crash. Those guys fell on an uphill section of the gravel, and they're going to be okay, I believe. We'll have to check out the press releases later. Onwards, the 3 up front were holding a good solid pace, 2 minutes or so, and then it was dropping down into that last sector at 15 kilometers to go. Back behind, it was still Ineos, Tynesman, it was Magnus Sheffield. Those guys were working so hard and showing very well. Magnus Sheffield from New York, the young American, doing his duty for Geraint Thomas. You always see him there in the white glasses. It's been dry conditions lately in Tuscany, so the gravel roads were completely dusty, and the riders all came in with a solid film of dust over their faces when they were up there at the top for the interviews. On the last gravel sector, 15 kilometers to go, they held 140 thereabouts. We had the 3 men up front, Plapp, Alaphilippe, riders we know well, and then Sanchez, the rider from Asturias up in the northwest of Spain. From Oviedo, he told me there in the mixed zone. 2 wins so far in his career, and if he was going to pull off today, it was going to be his biggest ever. In a team that included other big names like Rubio, like Nairo Quintana, and Fernando Gaviria, the team sprinter. On that gravel sector behind the GC group, well, that's when one crash occurred, another crash, and that's the crash that included Will Barta, also GC rider Caruso. At the time, Bahrain had been on the front working. They got the message in the ear that their GC man had crashed, so they eased up on the pace. Ineos kept driving it nonetheless. The kilometers were ticking down. At around about 5 kilometers to go is when we saw that steep, crazy climb with fans lining it out, Serre di Rapolano. And that's where Plapp and Alaphilippe tried their moves. Plapp went first. He's the rider that's less explosive out of the trio. Alaphilippe and Sanchez took over. It looked like Plapp may have been distanced, but he's a good pacer, does well in TTs. He was also the best placed GC rider at the start of the day, 2 minutes and 33 seconds down in the GC. He paced himself well. He was back in the group over the top, plateauing, falls flat out for that final kick up here to the hilltop town where I'm standing now with these awesome views over my shoulders. A little village. Coming up into the village, we saw fans on the balconies, left and right hand side. Really every day in this Giro d'Italia, we've been greeted with a lot of fans, all wearing pink out there, cheering on first to last rider out there crossing the stage. And today the riders are coming in slowly, one by one, all the way through the line. And when we saw Sanchez celebrating on the podium, still riders were coming through, including Fernando Gaviria, who was telling Sanchez how to open up the Prosecco bottle and celebrate properly on the stage. Sanchez doesn't have much experience in it. Well, he was going to have it today because he was marking Alaphilippe and Plapp well. Plapp, of course, went early. He knew he had to do that because he's less explosive than Alaphilippe and Sanchez. Sanchez responded well to Alaphilippe. We thought Alaphilippe was going to pull it off, which is going to be a huge win for Alaphilippe, who's not been winning as much as he used to and has been getting a lot of flack from the general manager, Patrick Lefevere, who showed up today at the race, and you would have seen him on the side of the road handing out water bottles to the Frenchmen. Well, Alaphilippe heading towards the finish line, but instead it was a little bit of an unknown rider, Pelayo Sanchez, Oviedo, Asturias, Movistar. Well, now we all know him well. And in the team that included Rubio, Quintana, Gaviria, well, he's the one that pulled off the win, celebrating. He was over the moon when I saw him in the mix zone. Just super happy and super sweet, very sweet in the fact that he didn't even know he needed to open up the Prosecco bottle. He wanted to just carry it off the stage, maybe take it home as a prize to his family, but he needed to open it up and spray the crowd with it in celebration, and he did. It made the sponsors of the race, the Prosecco sponsor of the race, really happy. Over the finish line, as is often the case, the first rider who wins the stage and also the race leader, well, they go right to the mix zone. We can't grab them right away. And just to give you a little behind the scenes, we go after the second place rider, third place rider on the stage. I went after Plapp right away. Then I saw Geraint Thomas coming across the line with pink jersey, our pink jersey, Pogacar. Geraint Thomas continued riding straight. Pogacar had to get right over to the mix zone. He knows the drill. He's been doing it for several years now. White jerseys and Vuelta, Tour de France, yellow jersey in Tour de France, right over there, whisked away. Well, Geraint Thomas, cool, experienced, collected. He's riding by. I'm standing there waiting for Plapp to get ready to speak for an interview. And I said, hey, Geraint, got a minute? And Geraint stops. So cool, so professional. Ask him a few questions. And I say, hey, fans at home are wondering why Ineos is working and not forcing the team of UAE to work and wear them down. He explained that very politely, and some riders might just blow it off and say, hey, well, you need to study cycling. Geraint explains it and explains it well. He also indicated it's about conserving energy in today's stage, and also Pogacar mentioned that as well for tomorrow's TT, because it's one of the 2 big TTs in this year's Giro d'Italia, and they're concerned about that. Also, Tadej, when I spoke with him in the mix zone after getting those words from Pelayo Sanchez, Tadej explained that today they didn't want to risk it for the stage win because there was a lot of risk of crashing or anything could go wrong. Wouldn't get much gains if he was going to go out there for the stage win, whereas tomorrow and the next day, the summit finish, Prati di Tivo, that's where more gains can be made. So he is taking things conservatively, even if early on in the race, in those first 3 stages, we thought he was going to be attacking every day in this 2024 Giro d'Italia. So tune in for the TT tomorrow, tune in for the mountain stage on Saturday and the Sunday stage in Napoli. But today, when you tuned in, well, you were treated to one of those great Giro d'Italia stages, rolling through the hills of Tuscany and coming here to Rapolano Terme with Pelayo Sanchez winning on top for Team Movistar.